Emmerdale will air a surprising development in Moira Dingle and Kim Tate's relationship, amid their ongoing business rivalry. With the future of her beloved farm looking bleak, Moira is forced to reach out to her nemesis. But will Kim take advantage of her vulnerability, or will they be able to strike up a deal? In next week's episodes, Moira learns about the full truth about her husband Kane's cancer diagnosis, which he'd be trying to keep under wraps. Overwhelmed by his illness, the mounting farm invoices and Joe Tate's threats, Kane finally confesses his struggles while visiting Moira in prison. Moira is heartbroken to hear about the state of Butler's farm, but insists that Kane's health must come first. She decides to take matters into her own hands and extends a prison visiting order to Kim. But will the pair be able to reach a truce, or will another clash be on the cards? Speaking about the upcoming scenes, Natalie J. Robb, who plays Moira, explained that the two businesswomen have mutual respect for each other, despite their prickly past. As hard as it is for Moira to be speaking to her, there is that underlying mutual respect which I hope is something that maybe grows in the future between the two characters, she said. Robb addressed how Joe has been pressuring Kane in order to seize control of the farm. She explained that Kim is reluctant to align herself with Joe's underhand actions. So could she make her own deal with Moira instead? Moira doesn't like Joe's tactics and Kim Tate doesn't like Joe's tactics. That's the thing, and the fact that he's getting kind of caught out a lot of the time. The thing that he does every time is he's sort of bringing her down with him, and that's not how she operates. Yes, she'll cross her, but she doesn't go out of her way to be vengeful or that way, Robb added. The morning sun filtered through the dusty blinds of Butler's farm, casting long shadows over the well-worn farmhouse. Moira Dingle sat at the kitchen table, a mug of cold tea clutched between her hands. Her mind was a storm of worry and confusion. The previous week had been a whirlwind of heartbreak, confrontation, and shocking revelations, and she was still trying to process it all. Kane's cancer diagnosis, which he had kept a secret for so long, weighed heavily on her. Though the Dingle patriarch had finally confided in her during one of her prison visits, the reality of the disease and the mounting pressures of running Butler's farm threatened to crush her spirit. Kane had been brave, stoic even, but Moira could see the exhaustion etched into his face, the furrows in his brow, and the weariness that he tried so desperately to hide. She had begged him to focus on his health, yet the farm's bills and Joe Tate's relentless threats loomed large, making it impossible for either of them to breathe freely. Moira had spent the early morning hours poring over the invoices and account books, calculating what could be salvaged and what would inevitably fall to Joe's cunning grasp. It was during this time that the seed of a daring plan took root in her mind. If she wanted to protect the farm and help Kane, she would need to confront her most unlikely ally, or perhaps adversary, Kim Tate. The prison visit. As she waited for her scheduled visiting time at the prison, Moira's mind kept returning to Kane's words, his pale face etched with worry and exhaustion. He had tried to shield her from the worst of it, hoping to bear the burden himself, but Moira's maternal instincts, her fierce loyalty, would not allow her to sit idly by. She had to act, not just for Kane, but for the entire Dingle family. When the guards finally ushered her through the familiar corridor to the visiting room, Moira felt a sense of purpose stealing her resolve. Kane was already seated at the table, his eyes lighting up as he saw her. She sat down opposite him, immediately taking his hand in hers. "I can't believe you've been carrying this alone," she whispered, her voice trembling. "You shouldn't have to fight this by yourself." Kane gave a small, rueful smile. "I wanted to protect you, Moira. I didn't want you to worry. You've got enough on your plate with the farm." Moira's eyes softened, but determination shone through. "We'll handle the farm together, Kane. But I need to do something, and it might involve someone you'd rather I never speak to." Kane's brow furrowed. "Who?" Moira hesitated for a moment, weighing her words carefully. "Kim Tate. The proposal." Kane blinked, disbelief etched into his expression. "Kim? You're going to what? Strike a deal with her?" Moira leaned forward, her eyes resolute. "Yes. I know she's complicated. I know our history isn't the best. But we both want to see Butler's farm survive, and I think, deep down, she respects people who fight for what's theirs. She doesn't play dirty with everyone. She plays smart. And I think that's what I need right now." Kane sighed, running a hand over his face. "Just be careful. You know Kim doesn't do favors. She has her own game." "I know," Moira admitted. "But we don't have a choice. Joe's pushing too hard, and I can't sit back while he tightens his grip. If I can get Kim on our side, even temporarily, it could make all the difference." Butler's farm under siege. Back at Butler's farm, Joe Tate's shadow loomed large. The businessman had become increasingly brazen in his attempts to seize control of the property, dangling threats and half-promises with the precision of a predator. Kane had faced him before, but this time, the stakes were personal. Joe's latest scheme involved manipulating invoices and leveraging the farm's debts to pressure Kane into handing over Moira's share. Sarah Sugden had been keeping a watchful eye, subtly alerting Kane to Joe's movements. But even her sharp instincts couldn't prevent the tension from mounting. The farm's animals, machinery, and even the farmhouse itself seemed to hum with unease, reflecting the turmoil in the hearts of those who lived there. Moira's plan to involve Kim Tate wasn't without risk. The two women had a history of clashing over business, property, and family affairs. Kim had a reputation for ruthlessness, and while she occasionally showed glimpses of empathy or respect, those moments were often fleeting. Yet, Moira had learned that the one thing Kim despised more than losing power was being dragged into someone else's petty feud. If approached correctly, she could be persuaded to act in mutual interest, without the ego clashes derailing the plan. The approach. Moira contacted Kim through the proper channels, requesting a private meeting under the guise of discussing a potential property partnership. She arrived at Kim's lavish office, her presence immediately filling the room with tension. Kim looked up from her paperwork, her signature calculating gaze fixed on Moira. Well, Moira Dingle," Kim said, her voice smooth but edged with curiosity. "To what do I owe the pleasure?" Moira took a deep breath, steadying herself. "I need your help, Kim. Butler's farm is in trouble. Joe Tate's been pushing Kane to the edge, and I believe we can help each other, at least temporarily." Kim arched an eyebrow, a faint smile playing on her lips. "And why would I help you? I don't have the luxury of playing second fiddle to anyone, Moira. Not even you." Moira's eyes locked with hers. "Because it benefits you as well. Joe's tactics are reckless, and they could drag you down if you're associated with him. We both know he's unpredictable. If we form an alliance, we can outmaneuver him and protect what's ours." Kim leaned back, steepling her fingers. "You're asking for trust, Moira. That's a rare commodity." "I know," Moira admitted. "But desperate times call for desperate measures, and I'm willing to offer terms that make sense for both of us." Negotiation and tension. The negotiation was tense, fraught with subtle power plays. Moira had come prepared with detailed financials, legal options, and even contingency plans for Joe's potential countermoves. Kim listened, occasionally nodding, her eyes sharp and calculating. "You understand, Moira," Kim said finally, "that any misstep could cost you more than the farm. This isn't just about money, it's about leverage, influence, and control." "I understand," Moira replied firmly, "and I'm ready to take that risk." For a long moment, silence stretched between them. The tension was palpable, a collision of two strong wills. Finally, Kim leaned forward. "Very well. I'll consider your proposal. But know this, I don't do anything halfway. If we proceed, it's all in or nothing." Moira nodded, relief washing over her. "Understood. That's all I can ask." Back at the farm. As Moira left Kim's office, her mind buzzed with strategy and anticipation. Kane had been waiting at the farm, pacing nervously. When she returned, she relayed the encounter, careful to manage his expectations. "He's listening, Moira?" Kane asked cautiously. "Kim's considering it," Moira said. "But she's clear. It has to be all in or nothing. We can't hedge." Kane exhaled, tension melting slightly from his shoulders. "That's something. Better than nothing, anyway." The next few days were a flurry of preparation, calls, and cautious maneuvers. Moira and Kim maintained a professional distance, each aware of the other's instincts and potential for betrayal. Yet beneath the veneer of caution, a tentative respect began to form. Two women who had clashed over power, property, and family were now engaged in a delicate dance of negotiation, strategy, and compromise. The Dingle family reacts. Back at the farm, the Dingle family could feel the change. Sarah, Belle, and the younger members noticed Kane's slightly lighter mood, the purposeful air about Moira. There were whispered conversations, curious glances, and the ever-present hum of tension as Joe Tate's shadow loomed in the background. Jacob Gallagher, ever protective of his family, kept a keen eye on Joe's movements, offering subtle support and intelligence to Kane when needed. The farm, once a simple rural idyll, had become a chessboard of strategy, loyalty, and high-stakes negotiation. The ticking clock. Despite the progress, time was against them. Kane's health continued to be a pressing concern, each day a reminder of the urgency. The planned meeting between Moira and Kim had to yield results quickly. Joe's patience, or lack thereof, was running thin. Moira reflected on the weight of responsibility she bore. Her husband's life, the future of Butler's farm, and the well-being of her family rested on her decisions. Every conversation, every strategy session, carried immense consequence. And yet, amidst the pressure, she found strength in the unexpected alliance forming with Kim. Kim Tate's calculation. Meanwhile, Kim's own motivations were complex. She didn't trust anyone easily, and aligning with Moira required careful calculation. She knew that Joe's tactics were underhanded, but she also recognized opportunity when it presented itself. The prospect of gaining leverage over him, while preserving her own interests, was tantalizing. As she reviewed the details of Moira's proposal, Kim couldn't help but feel a grudging admiration for the Dingle matriarch's tenacity. Here was a woman who, despite personal hardship and family turmoil, had the courage to confront a known adversary head-on. The turning point. The week progressed, tension building toward the pivotal moment. Moira and Kane met with Sarah and Liam to discuss next steps, each move carefully considered. Finally, the day arrived for the formal negotiation with Kim, and Butler's farm seemed to hold its breath in anticipation. In a quiet room, away from the prying eyes of the village, Moira laid out her final proposal. Kim listened intently, weighing each word, each condition. After what felt like hours, she finally nodded. "Agreed," she said simply. The word carried immense weight. A tentative alliance had been forged, one that could shift the balance of power, protect Butler's farm, and perhaps even offer Kane a lifeline amidst his illness. Aftermath and reflection. As Moira returned home, she felt a rare sense of relief. The farm was still at risk, Kane's health was still a concern, but the immediate threat from Joe had been mitigated. The respect she and Kim had cultivated, tentative though it was, represented a new path forward. Kane embraced her, gratitude and relief evident in his eyes. "You did good, Moira," he said softly. She smiled, tears welling. "We did good," she corrected. "It's still going to be a fight, but we're not alone."